G'day, snappers, and welcome to the Sunday Snap, coming to you through the Ballr podcast feed. This is the podcast where we give our snap reactions to the NRL SuperCoach round that was. My name's Jono, coach are hungry for more, and with me to talk about all the big news coming out of round one is the Sultan of Spicy Takes, the Prince of Pods, the Coach of Tubes Pods, Tubes! How you going, Tubes?
I'm good, Jono. I'm what a great NRL round. PVL
awesome.
Ball 2.0 is back, and I'm excited because I feel like everyone's up and about. I mean, maybe the Drinkwater and Walsh owners are still a bit down in the dumps, but everyone's got a little bit of happiness about them. Good scores this week.
Yeah, good scores around. What did the Tubes Pods get?
Oh, what did we get? 13-22.
Feel nicely set up.
Yeah, like par, I think, or par-ish, or maybe slightly above. But yeah, I mean, when you got a couple of hundreds and some 90s sitting on your bench, you're feeling pretty good set up wise from a team perspective. But yeah, I mean, looking at people in the high 1500s in the Ballr Prize League is putting me off a bit.
Yeah, including, I mean, C-Mac, obviously Ballr contributor, people that know from listening, he's had a big 1,500 plus, so well done C-Mac. He's a notorious strong starter, but he's not the fast starter, is he? How's your dad, the pod father, gone? You said last week when we did the pod that he's a known strong starter. How's he gone week one?
Known fast starter. I don't know what he'll be coming overall, but I imagine it's going to be pretty high because he has started with a 15.54.
That's so good. And his bench is stacked.
Yeah. No, he's I think he didn't even play Noah Martin, I don't think, or Sanders or someone else. Like Lukey, I don't even think he played. Maybe he did, I don't know. But like it's
incredible.
Stacked. His team is stacked. 15.54 with a like he was so good. Like he captained Nico. And he went in the cookie pod last week and he really tried to put his foot on the throat to go hard. He brought in the ultra pod Simi Sasangi from the Raiders.
Yep.
And I mean, he only got 80 in the scheme of things. Not
still
massive,
pretty good though.
But pretty good
at the price.
Pod.
Yeah, a massive pod. Dual as well, second row forward, centre wing. Great little pod if you can hold that spot. And the inside scoop says that he just may. So well done, Podfather. As always, let's just follow in the Podfather next year. Tubes, just a reminder before we get into the meat of the pod, please do get out there, give us a follow on all the different socials that are available. Ballr NRL on X, Facebook and Instagram, and search for Ballr SuperCoach on YouTube and TikTok. Like, subscribe, follow, do all the good stuff. We really appreciate every single person who takes time out of their week to get that done for us. Also a reminder, Tubes, the Ballr's only Discord. Head over to ballr.live/Discord. Sign up, takes only seconds. Tubes, an example of why the Discord's so great. People who listen to the pod on Tuesday would have heard myself, you and Matt say that Noah Martin was probably one to avoid due to a bit of job security. Although credit to Matt, he did say that it wouldn't surprise me if Ricky stuck with Noah as one of Ricky's boys. But in the Discord, it became very clear a couple of days post-pod, there was some mail leaked that Noah Martin had actually won the spot over Matty Nicholson on form, which I believe Ricky himself said after the press conference. He was asked about Matty Nicholson and Noah Martin and said that Noah Martin had the superior pre-season and off-season, kind of confirming that mail. But the Ballers in there got that mail. So a lot of the Ballers out there very happily brought in Noah Martin, boosted that ownership up. So well done to all the Ballers who are in the Discord and followed in that little tip on Noah Martin because it came out good, didn't it?
It was good too. Like, there was some other sources out there sort of talking about Noah Martin and different things. But you once aspired to be a journalist, I believe, Jono, went around year 5, year 6, and it was like the double source confirmation. We got the second source hot off the clippers, and you put it in the Discord, and I think that's inspired many more Ballers to start with Noah Martin.
Yeah, the barber gave the tip. I texted him when I saw those lineups and heard that chatter and said, "What's the go with Noah Martin?" He said he's won the spot. So basically the best source out there, as always, little grain of salt, little strand of hair you got to take with any mail that comes from the barber. But he was the one who also said that he heard Sasangi had won the spot over Timoko. So we'll see how that pans out as well. Tubes, the Ballr 10K League. Look, it is the biggest prize for any free-to-join league. First place gets 7,500, second gets $1,000, third through fifth, 500 each. And you just got to get over to ballr.live, take the very small amount of time it takes to sign up and sign yourself up. Tubes, there are more people who listen to this pod and watch this pod than there are people in that prize league. So if you're one of those people, do yourself a favour, join in, whether you had a good week, bad week, or something in between. Get into the Ballr prize league.
Yeah, and Jono, like, we haven't gotten to it because it was announced that you and I can win it this year and can win the prize money. And so why don't you let us know how you've gone to kick off and where you're sitting in the Ballr 10K prize league?
Well, I don't know where I'm sitting. I had a pretty good round at 14.32 Tubes. Very happy with the Hungry for More start to the year. Did I not brag about that at the top of the pod? That's very unlike me not to bring it up.
The beauty of the Ballr site is it updates so quickly and I can just go and search Hungry for More, and I can see that you are ranked 111th currently in the Ballr 10K league, and with a 1441. So updates. Little updates. So
it's good.
Hot off the press there. But yeah, well done. Big news.
Very happy with that. Just checking and I still won my head-to-head match for $50 in our cash league, Tubes. Just had to quickly check those updates. Didn't cost me $50 for big score at the end, and it didn't. Happy to confirm. Tubes, the Ballr Match Centre, it is the best place to go for the fastest SuperCoach scoring. I'll give you an example today, Tubes, of how much I love the Ballr Match Centre. I was watching the Rabbitohs game against the Dolphins on my phone today, and my daughter was sitting there next to me watching, and there was that try that Cody passed to Trell. And I immediately did the old KO, pushed to the side of the screen, got it in the top corner, and had the Ballr Match Centre up, just ready to watch those points trickle through. And my daughter was going, "Daddy, can I see that try again?" I went, "No, sweetie, it's more important that Daddy sees his points come in for Cody and Trell." And geez, they came in fast. She didn't have to wait too long because the points trickled in. I saw the try assist, saw that try bump up Trell's score, and they were straight back into KO. So love Ballr Match Centre. Minutes faster than the official app. It wouldn't have come in for another 3 or 4 minutes on the official app, and I loved as a SuperCoach diehard watching them come through.
It's an interesting. I feel like it's even more important this year. With the, I don't know. It feels still a little bit up in the air about who's getting these try assists, who's getting these line break assists,
more than what we would have liked,
More than what we would have liked, but so it almost feels more important. I think even Cody got 1 or 2 today that I think he deserved, but you just sort of felt like it was 50-50 after some things that happened on the weekend. So, yeah, even extra important to be able to check the Ballr.live to see it come in and update straight away, because it hasn't really been changing that much either. Like, the updates do come through, but once someone gets it, they don't typically take it away.
That's the big change from the old systems. Typically, the stat changes that come through post-game are like a couple of tackles here and there or hit-ups. They change from +8 metres to under and vice versa. But, yeah, the try assist, they seem to give it, and it sticks with it. They got it. So I do at least like that consistency. Tubes, and the last one, the team builder and rate my team, still out there and available. It's not just a preseason tool. You keep your team saved and you upload to get yourself accurate Ballr projections for the actual season as well. And Tubes, can't believe we didn't mention it last week. Last week was our 1 year anniversary. 1 year since the Sunday Snap debut, our Snap-iversary, you might call it. Did you get me anything?
I don't think I'll call it the Snap-iversary.
No,
I mean you're the big events guy. Like, you're the Valentine's Day man for those that have Mother's Day. Like you. So I'm assuming you're getting me something.
Tubes, you know I'd never forget you for our Snap-iversary. Of course I got you something.
Oh, get out! How good's this?
Tubes, I love a big occasion, and the Snap-iversary was no exception. So for those who OG ballers, they would know. Last year, obviously, Tubes had his big Gerham at Shibasaki, called him Young GI, and it went nuts. It was a great call from you, Tubes. I rubbished it. You had egg on my face. But before Gerham at Shibasaki could run, Marcelo Montoya had to walk. And OG ballers know that your original man, who you picked up a few years ago at the Warriors, looking up, it was one of your first great deep dive calls, looked at the draw, and you picked up Marcelo Montoya as a massive pod in the Tubes pods. And, yeah, Tubes, I do have a little present for you for our Snap-iversary.
Hey, Tubes. It's Marcelo Montoya from the Bulldogs here. Just wanted to congratulate you on your 1 year anniversary of the SuperCoach review show.
Thanks, Marcelo.
I just wanted to say thanks for the support, brother. I heard that I heard that your team hasn't been going too well. So I just wanted to wish you the best on the upcoming season, and hope that you can take it out this year, brother. So I wishing you all the best, Tubes. Thanks for the support, my man. And sending you my love, brother. The dogs.
Happy snap anniversary, Tubes.
Thanks, Jono.
Do you feel bad now that you didn't even get me a card?
Look, I'll do the same as with my wife. My presence is your present, Jono. But I appreciate the sentiment here. Marcelo is one of my boys from way back.
Oh, he's OG Tubes pod, Marcelo.
Yeah, this was pre him being a TikTok and podcasting superstar himself as well. So
one of the great podcasts, the Montoyas. It's so funny.
I feel like I don't know. That's my first ever swish, Jono. So that's my you popped my swish cherry there.
Don't want to pop any of your cherries. Well, that has soured the mood for me after a nice gift, and that's going to get me perfectly Tubes in the right frame of mind for our first segment of the show. It's time for our rage trades. Are you little? And Tubes, one that came in on Thursday night from the Storm versus Eels game was Jermaine Hopgood, who was in 16.5% of teams. Hot chips with gravy mentioned this is a discussion topic in the Ballers only Discord, where all of our rage trades come from. That with him being sin binned in the second tackle of the game, he now faces a 1 week suspension unless he fights and wins. If he loses, it will be 2 weeks. He still went on to play 56 minutes, Tubes. All of those 50 points he got this week came in base plus power. I would say the role looks quite good for his owners. Do you think that Jermaine Hopgood is a legitimate trade option for this week?
I don't think so. Not him specifically, as you say. So he started at -8 after that first minute. So with the sin bin, he came back on. So in 54 minutes, he's actually gone 58 in base plus power. So over a point per minute in base plus power. Still played 58 minutes. So I think all you wanted to see from him, barring the sin binning, was that he was in for 60 minutes plus. And I think we pretty much locked that in. Just about, and so I think he's a definite hold for this week. From as a Hopgood owner, I'll be holding him for sure.
As a Hopgood non-owner, I think he's a hold as well. I thought the role looked great. Choose the other thing that you didn't mention there. Like Storm beat them 52 points to 4. He spent a significant amount of time under the posts. Like it's not like it was even the basiest game for forwards. He didn't get many runs in that time. It was pretty much all tackling. I thought he looked really fit. He didn't look gassed when he came off the field. It looked like he comfortably could have played more minutes. So I think with that role, I would have him down as a hold as well. I do understand people looking at some of these cheaper guys and maybe going, okay, he's out for a week. I can't play him. Is he my way down to those guys? And maybe for some circumstances he is, but I would be holding him if I was a Hopgood owner for sure.
Just to digress, I know that, but I said earlier that it felt like this weekend was PVL 2.0, which is referencing the 2021 season when scores just went off their heads, particularly with Tommy Turbo, etc. And I'm sure we're going to review a lot of these in the games, but I think it's worth talking about with regards to rage trades. And I think a lot of people's strategy coming into this week was stacking the pack, looking for those guys that have the higher upside with the change in scoring system. And I think Hopgood's a beneficiary of that, but he's a beneficiary because of role changes. I do think that what we didn't consider was these rule changes actually really helping out fullbacks and halfbacks and actually attacking strategies coming in. So I think that there is the possibility that if you've had an absolute killer week, you're looking to get in someone like a Noah Martin, or you're looking to get in one of these other second row forwards, and you're looking to save money to go up in fullback areas or something like that. Hopgood could be a sell, but I definitely wouldn't be selling him this week just off the back of that Storm game.
Tubes, I was going to get into this later. Let's just get into it now because you brought it there. How confident? No, it's good. I don't like it's better that things coming up organically than a run sheet. I like it. How confident are you? There was obviously some big scoring games this weekend, some huge margins, huge SuperCoach scores. You seem pretty set that it's PVL Ball 2.0. For people who don't know, in 2021, with the set restart rule that came in, the SuperCoach scoring completely exploded. It became a fast-paced playing game, which meant a lot more ball in play, which meant a lot more SuperCoach points. So, Chibs, you're feeling pretty confident that's not just a one-week trend. You think it's going to be a high-scoring year back to what we saw in 2021?
I think so. And I think the Rabbitohs and Dolphins game reinforced it this afternoon for me.
Especially in a wet track.
Well, even you look at the Manly Raiders, that was a wet track, torrential rain as well. And really that should have been a sub-30 game. I think it ended up going for 57 points. And there's just gaps. And I think it can only be explained by just people being extra gassed because of the quicker keeping the ball in play.
Yeah.
And we saw that as a step change in 2021. It definitely slowed down with some slight tweaks to the rules, but I also just think people adjusting. And I just think that we're going to see that again. And for those that even are out there thinking, oh, well, what about the lower scoring game? So Penrith was 24-0 or something to Broncos. I actually went back and looked at round 1 of 2021, and we had games like that as well. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's all going to be high-scoring games, but what it means is momentum is such a big driving factor, and that just can end up meaning that there's going to naturally be higher-scoring games and naturally bigger margins as well, which is what I think we saw play out this weekend.
So do you also think that's going to affect middle rotations? Do you think these big middles then are potentially, even though obviously we know the stat changes benefit them with the extra tackles this year, do you think it might be bad for them from a minutes perspective, that coaches maybe might play 80-minute edge-back rollers and roll through the middle rotation more?
I don't think that, no, and that's not why I'm thinking get rid of your middles. I'm actually thinking it more for the fact of, so I think a lot of people went with cheap fullback options, probably. Obviously, there was the 5 centre wing cheapies, and we were looking at stacking those big tackle, Isaiah Yeos, etc. I think that you need to go the really high upside guys because they're the ones that are going to explode this year. We saw so many hundreds this week. It might even sound crazy and we'll get to him, but I'm thinking, is Kinney now a must? Or do you look at, the real premium fullback options as well? And I won't be making any of these decisions this week, but it's certainly, I think it's the first step to actually thinking about, well, do we need to reconsider what's the best structure for a team moving forward?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get back on with the rage trades. That was a good little segue. Jacob Laban, who was put in as a rage trade candidate by Kingslayer. Jacob Laban, 22 points, came off after 46 minutes to be replaced by Leka Halasima, who then played out the game. Do you think Jacob Laban is a rage trade or a fair trade?
He's a fair trade. I mean, the amount of good cheapies we had this week and good options. You'd just be filthy if you started with Laban, I think, for 22 points in 46 minutes. That's just not what you want to see at all.
No, I agree. He's a trade, and there's plenty of good candidates who we'll get to in this episode that you might want to trade Laban down to. Chiefs, the last one was a popular one, so I saved it for last because I also think it's the hardest one to call, at least for me. Tino for Arswa Malawi was sent in by Auspicious Calamari, Benny, and Iron Jack, all from the Ballers Only Discord. He had 44 points in 49 minutes. He got put on report for a shoulder charge, only fine, so he's free to play next week. What'd you make of his performance? What'd you make of that 49-minute roll?
Look, I mean, his performance was fine. They got belted.
A lot of time under posts.
And a lot of time under post, but it also felt like his first stint, specifically, they were just defending the whole time. Sharks had all the momentum, and it was hard for the Titans to roll. With that being said, and we preface everything with it's team dependent, but I don't own Tino, but if I had him in my flex or somewhere this week, he would probably be my first one traded in my team for this week. Just at that price, he was premium. It didn't feel like he was undervalued to start the year. Like you were getting him in as a big upside, but not necessarily a big stats perform change for him. So I think that he's a perfect downgrade option to one of these mid-rangers that you might have missed out on, like a Helam Lukey or something like that, and that's where you can use that money elsewhere. That's, again, it's all team dependent, but I I'd be looking to move away from these 40 to 50 minute or 50 to 60 minute middlemen like a Tino, based on what I was just talking about there with, I think, what could be the changes.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I mean, he is a proven gun. We have seen years and years of Tino being a good Supercoach player. The other thing is they got a 4 middle bench, and we'll see if that still holds up for the Teamless Tuesday next week. But those 4 middles, they're all playing through the middle. Like, there was not a single edge minute. Bo Fermor and Arama Ho. I think it's Howe, but someone in the YouTube comments last week said it might be pronounced Ho, and I watched that game on mute. But Arama Howe or Arama Ho, they both played 80 minutes, which is not good for Tino with 4 middles coming off the bench. And a guy like Cooper Bai, who we expect as time goes on, might build into the role as well. So, yeah, definitely some concern there.
Did he get taken off as well towards the end? I
thought he played out the game.
Okay. I might have read someone else's comment that he got taken off when the game was over. But it didn't feel, I guess, the only other comment, and again, it's one game, with no Jaden Campbell there and them having Lachlan Ilias at half, the Titans don't look like winning many games, and that doesn't feel great for Tino to start the season. So could be an easy sell, could lose some cash, and could be a buyback later on.
All right, let's get into the actual match review now. We're going to start off with the Storm versus the Eels, which we mentioned was an absolute shellacking to the Storm. Tubes, you were into the Eels in this preseason. How did that make you feel to see the Eels come out and have a bad game? Because you did cop a lot of criticism.
Yeah, I mean, I felt fine about it. I don't know. My favourite part of the whole match, and I was texting the podfather about this, was it honestly, I told you, the Eels PR machine, it's the best. Like, they're down by 30 and Brandy's still going on about how good Riles is as a coach and how, like, don't write him off and, you know, things can turn. And the Storm are just rolling through them, like try after try after try. And it's like, I just couldn't believe it. Yeah, the Jonah Pezzett coming in for Dylan Brown didn't improve the team. It shocked me, but yeah, not sure what happened there.
I think give it time. I think the Eels are a better team than what we saw on Thursday night, but we'll see. On to the actual players. Harry Grant, 94 points in just 60 minutes. He came off with, I believe they called it hamstring cramps or upper leg cramps or something. Danny Boy, Ballr contributor, was all through the Discord saying he doesn't believe in that assessment, posted a bit of footage where it definitely looked like something happened to the upper ankle area of Harry Grant. But look, he was on his feet at the end and smiling, so Tubes, all we can hope for after a big 94 and looking like he was back to his dynamic running best. We just got to hope that he's there and fit for next weekend for the Storm.
Yeah, I can't wait for the team list to be named on Tuesday, and if he doesn't get named, it'll be a big talking point about what people to do. Yeah. For those people who are Harry Grant and Brandon Smith owners, or Harry Grant and Ielu owners, or insert player here, it's still going to be a tough little thing to cross. Yeah. Tubes, what'd you make of Moses Leo? Cheapy at 235k, 95 points, 47 in base plus power this week. What'd you make of his performance? Well, that's the big one. 47 in base plus power. He's not playing the Eels every week. So he's not necessarily scoring 2 tries every week, but as a playable option in that left centre role, looked great outside Munster and obviously outside Lasardi. Probably didn't make Nick Meaney a great pod purchase because he didn't necessarily love passing the ball, but as a Leo owner and someone that's looking for those price rises, I thought he looked good. Basically, heading towards that must-have cheapy territory if you don't own him just by the looks of him in the first game.
Yeah, he looked great. I wonder if he's going to be a Rocks or Diamonds player because it's funny, like first trial against the Raiders, he looked really good. The second Storm trial, he looked bang average, like a couple of drop balls, poor defensive reads. And in this game, his late footwork at the line was electric. So it's going to be an interesting one, Moses Leo. I think there's going to be some frustrating weeks thrown in there.
Didn't Dan say the stats were that he'd only played 2 games and one game he'd base plus powered 3 and the other he'd done like 35. So we weren't sure what we were going to get. Yeah,
I think it was pure base, like 6 and 35 in just base alone. But yeah, he's interesting. Tubes, Atu Lasati was another big winner out of this game. He was highly purchased, 37%. He had an 88. He did score a try, but he also had 72 in base plus power. He was going to play 73 minutes before they gave him a rest. He came back on for the Warbrick HIA with a bit of a reshuffle. So he ended up getting 79 minutes. I mean, depending on this Ballr situation, and we're going to come back to that when we speak about another Storm back rower in a later segment, the Ballr situation's a big watch, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, if you didn't start with him, it was because of the Ballr situation, and you just sit on your hands for another week and see how it looks. But he's come out and done everything to basically say if he is the long-term starter for the Storm, he's a must-have at the price.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the Eels players. There's not too many we want to talk about. Mitchy Moses, he had a 40. Look, not a disaster score. He had no attacking stats. He didn't kick any goals. Yeah, pass mark. If you got Mitchy Moses, like, you just want to watch that Eels performance and you wouldn't have loved it. Jonah Pezzit's really interesting, Tubes. He's in 73% of SuperCoach teams. He's got a 17, and I thought it was a pretty disappointing performance, albeit in a badly beaten team. What do you think owners do here, Tubes? Like, should they start thinking of get-out plans, ways of dropping cash in other areas to get up to another player? Or at that price, do you just ride it out with Jonah?
Look, I can't speak for everyone. I can speak for myself, and I'm looking at getting him out. And that was reaffirmed by watching Cody this afternoon. That's a 100K jump up. I was not sold on Pezzit. And yes, this could just be confirmation bias. And the smart thing might be to say, hold, he'll come good. He's a decent football player. But I think at the options, if you don't own Cody Walker, to me, we can find 100K to get him to Cody Walker. And I think that's what I'm going to be looking to do. It's obviously a bit harder if you own Pezzit and Cody as your starting 5/8s.
Yeah.
Because you don't have that many options, to play out at the moment.
All right, let's get on to the second game of the round, the Warriors versus the Roosters, which the Warriors are surprising, I would say, big victory. Not surprising they won, but surprising at the state of the victory. The top scoring player of the game, as everyone expected, Tanner Boyd, 131. What a stat sheet stuffer. A try, 2 assists, 3 try contributions, a line break, 2 line assists, 28 points in conversions. Well done, Tanner. The other one, Tubes, that I just noticed, I thought Aaron Clark had a really good real-life football game. Only got 47 points and only played 54 minutes, so that's a little bit disappointing if anyone was kind of backing him having a second year at that premium status. The other last one from the Warriors, Tubes, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. He was a proven gun last year, really dependable. He's had 90 points with 2 try assists and 42 in base plus power. But Tubes, I don't think we'd be looking at him as an option even after that score at 670K.
No, I don't think so. It's a funny one. The Warriors, they played very well. And I think that they might be one of, if not the best coach side going around. Like Andrew Webster, geez, he does a good job. And they're always a tough beat. Another Podfather theory, always a tough game, that 6 p.m. game against the Warriors over in Auckland, and a tough SuperCoach matchup. But if we're honest, all the relevant players were not anyone that was anywhere near the top of the stat sheet on Friday night.
All right, let's get on to the Roosters side of things, Tubes. And James Tedesco, all this talk about fullbacks going to have down years this year with the stat changes. Teddy was the first of a lot of fullbacks to prove that wrong this round. He had a 92 try and an assist, 22 points in tackle bust for Teddy, just standard fare. Bit of Teddy ball happening in the Roosters attack at times, although Teddy was the one who was sparking the attack, to be fair as well. So I don't know if I can argue with Teddy ball in this situation. What do you make of his game, Tubes, and how do you feel like it affects other popular player, Sam Walker?
I mean, they just didn't play very well. They were very ill-disciplined. So I'm probably jumping on the Sam Walker side of things. I think you'll take the 54, and there was I wouldn't say it's a controversial him not getting the try assist for Billy Smith's try, but I think that in the old rules he possibly gets that with the line break and the line break assist and a try assist. I wouldn't say Teddy took away from Sam Walker. I just felt like the Roosters didn't get their attack going, and Teddy was the more dominant player this game because he felt he was really trying to get it going and sparking. But I do think that there were glimpses of Sam Walker and Tedesco both combining well, but also Walker being fully fit. There was a few times where Mark or others made breaks and Walker was the one there backing up, as well as a couple other Roosters players. He didn't get the ball, but he was in and around the action. So I liked what I saw from Sam Walker in a beaten side, but I also liked what I saw from James Tedesco and everything we've already said. I think that these premium fullbacks are just going to be, you need them in your team, because I think, like we've seen, 2 or 3 of them are going to be going 100 plus each and every week if these changes or this tempo stays as it is.
Tubes, Angus Crichton's one who I'm surprised didn't find his way into the rage trade segment today. I thought there was a lot of people out there frustrated at his performance. He had 54 points with a try. It wasn't a line break try, just the try for that. But look, he only had 7 runs, no tackle bust, no offload. It was a very un-Angus Crichton performance. A lot of ill discipline and defence as well, which I know frustrated the Roosters fans. Do you have any concerns about Angus Crichton after this first week? He's clearly worth giving another go. But is there if he scores like that again, plays like that again, you might put him on the chopping block?
Yeah, I think you could. He's not a certainty, and as we've talked about, there's so many mid to cheap second row forwards as options. You got to find someone to sell to them. Definitely wouldn't be selling him this week. Back in Sydney next week against the Bunnies. He'll obviously be running at Ewan Aiken and Jack Whiten, which, good defence, but I do think that there could easily be a Roosters bounce back next week.
And she was the other one with just a couple of discussed cheapies. One of them who ended up being well purchased. Nat Butcher, 424K. Don't get lured in by his 70 points in 8 minutes, I don't think. It was all in base plus power, pretty impressive, but we've got to remember that Victor Radley's back in round 7. Well, I mean, he might get a few price rises by then, but with all the good, cheaper second row forward options that were around, I don't think I'd look at Nat Butcher. And the other one was Benny Ayelu, who had 48 points in 48 minutes. He just played 48 minutes straight. It was really interesting. Connor Watson not coming in the rotation at all until 48 minutes into the game and then just playing hooker for the rest of the game. So I kind of like that, Tubes, as a non-Connor owner, because it might mean that if he does go back into that middle rotation when Reece Robson comes back, he could be very well priced, Connor.
We'll have to just see how it plays out, because it doesn't make sense to me, but you would have to think that Robinson's got a plan.
All right, let's get on to the next game, the Broncos versus the Panthers, which was, again, another big surprising pumping, 13 plus the Panthers, 26-0. And Tubes, I just want to start by comparing the Panthers outside backs, 2 very similar price guys, Thomas Jenkins and big bad Brian To'o, both coming just a touch under 600K. Jenkins out there on the left has busted 104 points with 53 in base plus power. And Brian To'o, with Isaac Tungle being dropped out of that team and playing New South Wales Cup, Brian To'o has moved to the right, only had a couple of tackle busts. What do you think of the Panthers wingers?
I thought I was quite high on To'o to start the season, with the thought of him being on the left and the thought of him being fully fit. But yeah, it was quite disappointing seeing him move to the right. I didn't end up starting with him, and if I did, I'd be having some serious doubts at the moment. I think that Panthers, the left-hand edge, is just so dominant for those big sweeping plays that end up going to the winger, whereas on that right side, it's much more Cleary ball, and he's either hitting the back row as short, putting people underneath him, or hitting Dylan Edwards, who doesn't necessarily always throw the big cutout balls to wingers as well. So he's not gone, but I felt like we saw this play out last season, and that's what we've seen play game 1. You just don't get as many opportunities on that Panthers right edge.
Yeah, because you mentioned Cleary. He also loves to stack the left. So that often these big sweeping backline plays go out to the left because Blaze Talangi's not really coming over to the right. So it does get stacked that way. It's interesting. Yeah, Matt quoted on our Tuesday pod about the 10-point difference in average throughout Brian To'o's career being on the right, 10 points worse than on the left. So very interesting. I would be having a think about trading him this week too, Tubes, if I wanted to free up cash to maybe get to, say, from a Jonah Pezzett to Cody Walker. If you didn't own all 5 of these cheapy centre wings who all went really well, we've got a few more still to talk about. Maybe that's your way to find a bit of cash.
I think so. I certainly, and you asked about Milky Jenkins. I wouldn't be bringing him in, but yeah, it looked very good. And they come up against the Sharks this week, so a more formidable opponent than the reigning premiers, I think.
Chief Nathan Cleary, 65 points, 1 assist, 18 points in goals. The first half was one of those games where he was just racking up points. He was on 51 at the half, didn't quite pan out in the second. I think anyone who owns is not selling Nathan Cleary based off that one performance and what we saw in the first half. Isaiah Tubes, 62 points, only played the 64 minutes, which is very uncharacteristic. I actually went back and looked. Maybe at the start of the year, does he not always come in as an 80-minute man? But no, previous years, he's been playing 80 from the outset. So it's not just a case of new season. It was meant to be very humid up there in Brisbane. Are you concerned at all about Isaiah's minutes moving forward?
I think I would be if we saw a bigger sample size of 64 minutes because he doesn't have the upside. I think I was happy with the points per minute, the stats changes, everything we talked about. 64 is enough for him to be, a safe as houses play, but you certainly wouldn't want him to average that many minutes over the next 10 weeks because I don't think you want to hold him if that's the case.
Isaiah Papali'i had 57 points, played 67 minutes and moved into the starting lineup with their whole reshuffle that occurred. He achieves historically a huge PPM man. I think he's at like 1.2 or 1.3 points per minute for his career. So definitely some value there if he holds that role, one to watch. And Kalani Going, who a lot of people did bring in as this dual 201k player, ended up in 8% of SuperCoach sides, played 32 minutes, had only 15 points. If Harry Grant's out this week and you're holding Kalani Going as your second hooker, that would not feel good.
I mean, you wouldn't be playing him. So I'd never, once he was named, anyway, it's a weird decision that people started with him. I think we saw basically what his role will be. You're really just hoping he gets dropped from the 19 altogether, basically.
Becomes enough. He's better.
Yeah.
The Broncos, really just disappointment for the highest owned players. Payne Haas, who was 33% captain this week in SuperCoach, has only had a 68. He came off after about 20 minutes, but then there was a HIA. He came straight back on and never left the field. It was in base plus power only. But look, in near 80 minutes, Tube, 68 is not what we're used to from Payne in base plus power.
No, not at all. It was a weird game. I know that, as you said, people mentioned the humidity. It was really just the Panthers of old, that they were really up for this game defensively and they were just really trying to bash them. And it felt like it was a bit of a one-man band for the Broncos. Payne was good, and I think his stats proved that. I think he was the only Broncos forward to go over 100 metres, and they were just bashing every other Broncos forward. So that's not going to happen every week. They're not going to play the Panthers. I think that'll be his lowest score, barring injuries for maybe the whole season.
The other big disappointment was Reece Walsh. Reece Walsh has had a 34 Tubes at 835k. Geez, you don't want to be seeing 34s out of Reece Walsh. But again, he is the kind of player, he's not goal kicking to elevate that floor. So he can have these kind of games in him. The only thing, Tubes, if people are thinking about him as a rage trade, they play the Eels next week. And we saw what another fullback did to the Eels just this week. So surely you can't even make a case for rage trading Reece Walsh.
Oh, sell him. Don't vice captain. Just sell him. Just most vice captain player this week, and as he should be, I think.
I'm scared as a non-owner. I mean, I'm always scared as a non-owner of Reece Walsh, but I'm definitely scared after a poor Broncos performance coming up against the Eels. Frightening stuff.
If we're sitting here next Sunday and he didn't get injured, I'll be shocked if he's gone up less than 100 Reece next week.
Yep. All right, Chiefs, let's get into our most positive and controversial segment of the show. Let's find out which NRL SuperCoach players are ready to explode. And again, these are all sourced from the Ballers Only Discord. This one comes in from Richard Gearballs. Joe Chan. Tubes, we mentioned Adu Lasardi earlier. Joe Chan, the fix-it man, coming at 310k. He had 87 points, played the 80 minutes. He did play the last 7 at centre with that forced reshuffle. 57 points in base plus power. One of the big knocks on Joe Chan has been that he is not a good PPM guy and his base is low. He kind of maybe changed some attitudes. Certainly changed mine a little bit watching him play, Tubes.
He looked trim.
How quick did he look?
Almost looked like a different person. Like, it was almost like they've switched him in. There's an old horse racing story where they saddle up a different horse for race day and called it and they painted it a different colour.
So Ellie could tell with a haircut.
I don't know. Like, he looked unbelievable, and he looked trim. Anyway, that's my point. He didn't look like the same as he's been in previous years, and so I'd be happy to throw out all that previous conversation and previous, I guess, role that he's had. And if it's still just the unknown because Lasardi was just as good. I really want to find out before round 3 what's happening with Sean Ballr.
So bad.
But I really like Joe Chan as an option, assuming he keeps that right-hand edge.
Yeah, and like almost we mentioned, like obviously joking about him cutting the hair. He looks nothing like Eli Katoa, so I don't think they pulled that one off. But he did score an Eli Katoa-esque try running off the Jerome Hughes hip as well, so that was nice because Jerome Hughes is very good at putting through his back rows. So yeah, great game. Look, the negative, the reason why I'd like to see it another week before I'd bring him in is again, Sean Ballr might be named this week. He might be starting. He might be off the bench. He might be the extended. But I do want to see what it all looks like because if Sean Ballr comes back into the starting team, that pushes Lasardi to the bench, and Lasardi is then potentially likely to get some minutes on the edge. So I would want to see how that all plays out before I pick him up. So it's a watch for me, but I do agree if he continues that, his price will absolutely explode. The other RTE, ready to explode player, is from the Storm as well, notably absent from our Storm discussion, Sua Fa'alongo, who had 116 points. His attack was incredible. 2 tries, a try assist, and 5 line assists. Tubes only 33 in base plus power, so he's probably going to have some down weeks in there as well, Sua. But as a non-owner, how are you feeling?
Yeah, not great. Actually, feeling okay. I mean, I started with Kalen Ponga and Turbo over Sua, so I can't complain too much. But I think he's going to be a big beneficiary this year in that fullback position. He may have some down weeks, as you say, but he has that speed. He looks electric. He's got that Reece Walsh skip across the field, beat the man that's on him and draw in the other to be able to throw the pass. And we saw some good ball skills, but we didn't see that many dummies from him, and I think we will. And we'll see him take the line on more. And I think he could, I mean, obviously he's not going to average probably better than 116, but he could get even better, even against these good teams.
Yeah, I think that speed you mentioned, that's where those 5 line assists came from because he got enough around the outside, his defender, the inside guy to push in and just pop it off to the centre, and it looked very impressive. Our last ready to explode player is Cody Walker. And this one, I'm actually kind of putting this out there from Matt and Dan, not in the Ballers Only Discord, but in the Baller Contributors WhatsApp group. And Matt and Dan, as Peasant owners, have both said that they are considering this week upgrading Peasant to Cody Walker. He did look set to explode. He was in everything for South. He basically operated as their halfback, even though he's wearing the number 6. 2 assists, a try contribution, 4 forced dropouts, 3 line assists, a 40-20. He also had a try disallowed, rightfully disallowed, where his foot just skimmed the touchline as well, so it could have been even bigger. I was really impressed by Cody Walker.
Yeah, looked unbelievable. That you could say that whole left edge is ready to explode. It looked, we saw it in the trials. It's come out round 1. He was very up and about, and if there's one bigger flat track bully than Trell, and what I mean by that is once they get momentum, they love to step on the throat and just keep it going. It's probably Cody Walker. And again, I don't want to keep beating the same drum. Momentum in PVL Ball is huge, and Souths can ride those waves, and Cody will be riding it with them. I think he's almost a heaven and earth man for me to get in after watching him today.
Wow, that's a big call. So heaven and earth this week or heaven and earth by round 3?
I think by round 3, but I think if you think he's a heaven and earth man, you may as well try to get him this week, given we know there's going to be other trades and all of those back row decisions that we need to get some more clarity on before then. Yeah. So I think it's worth bringing him in this week. I'm assuming he just got taken off with 8 to go just because you've done enough. You deserve a break. I didn't see that end of the match, but he did come off at the 72nd minute mark. That
was why. They literally just said, no, they actually checked, and the sideline report, I think it was Jake Duke, said, no issues, just an early shout for Cody after a great game. So no concerns. He looks fit. All right, let's get on to the second half of our round review. And the next game is the Sharkies versus the Titans. The Sharkies, again, just another drubbing, bit of a theme of the round, 50-10. And Tubes, let's start off with the two Sharks halves, Nicho Hynes, Braden Trindle. Tubes, watching them at the end of last year and then again in the All-Stars game where they were the halves, I think this might be where we're currently seeing the best and most seamless version of Nicho Hynes and Braden Trindle. It was a bit of a long road to get there, but they finally look really, really comfortable with their roles, don't they?
They do. I'm a little bit hesitant. The Titans were awful in this game. They were never in it. They were working on combinations, and I think they exploited them. Will Kennedy looked like a superstar up against Howe and Ilias in many cases. I think they looked very good, and of course they did. They won. They won by 40 points. I think next week's a big test against the Panthers, and to see how this halves pairing goes in that world. I really liked the way that Trindle was controlling and working around things, but not in the way as if he wasn't giving Nicho the ball when he wanted it. And I really liked the way Nicho was running. He scored on both sides of the field, both off a sort of set play and then just a spur of the moment dummy and run. And I think that is going to be very good for his SuperCoach output. But this is 100% a game that I do not want to overreact for as a SuperCoach and as a Sharks fan.
I think you mentioned Nicho's running game. Yeah, only 7 runs, but geez, he picked them well. Like, they weren't just runs for the sake of it. They were runs when something was on. And I love that eyes up kind of footy, to use a Matty Johnsism. Eyes up footy from Nicho Hynes. I thought it was fantastic. The Sharkies centres, Tubes, were one of them not a pod. Kaolito owned in 16.3% and Jesse Ramian in only 2.9%. But it was Jesse Ramian who looked the more threatening and viable option for the Sharkies. What do you make of the centres?
Yeah, and again, I think it all comes down to the halves, but it certainly felt like with Trindle being the more dominant halfback, he was playing both sides of the field as that sort of first receiver. And we saw then a lot more out the back plays going to the right than I think what we've seen before. Typically, the Sharks attack has always been Nicho, and then often he'll hit Nikora on the short ball. But we saw a lot more sweeping plays, and that was very good for Jesse Ramian. He's always been a great attacking player. And if he gets more opportunities like he got, which under this structure it looks like he could become a SuperCoach option.
He's flirted with it for a long time, Jesse. It's just that the attack's never been consistently there. His base plus power has always been good. Had 52 in base plus power this game, and KL Lito's 45 all came in base plus play. It's just that KL didn't get the 2 tries and an assist to go with it for that big score. Gee, sorry, one thing I moved on from Braden Trindle. I was meant to say, Braden Trindle's bald head. Well, like, there was actually times where, because I kept getting confused between him and Kennedy until I'd have a close look. There was times where I'd be like, geez, Kennedy's aggressively going into this line before he passes. And I was like, oh, that was Braden Trindle. Like, Kennedy.
I thought he was Hazelton a couple of times, I swear. Like, he was running it hard.
Yeah.
And he was bullying. I liked it.
AFB, Tubes, I thought, considering how much, again, we've mentioned big forwards spending a lot of time under the goalposts. AFB getting 67 all in base plus power in only 53 minutes is really impressive in the way that game went. Just the minutes are a watch. You want more minutes out of AFB, so he's a pause for me. Jesse Colquhoun, 43% owned. Massive for Big Jesse, the starting lock for the Sharks. He's had a 42 in his 47 minutes, 33 of which came from tackles. Not a big noted running game, Jesse. I don't think you'd look to trade yet, but it's hard, Tubes, when you know there's these other guys who have done a great job, 80 to 100K cheaper than Jesse.
Yeah, this is an interesting one for me. Not just Jesse, but when thinking about this week, because there's been a lot of good scores, but that Jesse versus Paseka or others was a big call.
Flegler was the other one.
Flegler as well was the other one. And you're not disappointed with what Jesse's done, but at the same time, as you say, it's hard to feel like, oh yeah, I can trade him. But if he's only getting 46 minutes, then there's just not much upside there. So you've really got to think about it and watch next week. But I can't, like, that feels like a pretty, like, that'll be his role. Like, it's a stacked bench for the Sharks, and, you know, Talakai coming on, makes an impact. ULA, the only one that probably didn't this week was Rudolph, but I don't see his minutes dropping away.
Made an impact, just not a very good one.
Yeah.
Tobes. Tubes, Keanu Kinney. Now, you mentioned at the top of the show that you're thinking maybe have I made the right call when it comes to getting Kinney versus other premium fullbacks. Ballr contributor C-Mac, and I don't know if this is a Sunday Snap reaction, but he has said that he's going to trade Keanu Kinney to Kalen Ponga this week, that he appreciates that Kinney's undervalued, but he just doesn't want to use the points of Ponga. And C-Mac, I always trust his rugby league eye test and vibe. Like, he's not the big data man, C-Mac, but he's consistently a really good, highly ranked SuperCoach player. What do you make of that call? He had 59 points, little try assist from a nice tip onto Fayamani. I thought the Sharks swamped him every time he got a ball off the kick. The Sharks obviously had dominant field position. He had 15 runs. Of those 15, only 4 of those were 8 metres plus. That is not the normal way for Keanu Kinney. But what do you make of this idea of C-Mac saying he might trade him as soon as this week?
I can make a case for it, and I'm not trading him this week. That's where it's good that I feel happy that I've made the right decision with Ponga and Turbo, and so it gives me another week. But it's such an interesting conversation because Kinney will make 150 to 200K. Like I think that's pretty much a given. He's undervalued. He's going to score well. He's probably going to average 70. Maybe even a little bit more than 70. But with what we saw this weekend, if you genuinely believe that you need fullbacks and flex, so 3 fullbacks that are going to be averaging 90 plus and have that really big upside, I just think that Kinney could be that rung short versus the other guys. And that wasn't a pun, I promise. But a rung short versus the ultra premiums in the sense that the Titans aren't going to be fantastic. And does he really have that big, consistent upside in him versus Turbo, Ponga, Teddy, Drinky, Walsh, etc.?
I think it's crazy. But the amount of times that C-Mac's done something that I've thought, C-Mac, that's crazy, and then I've been wrong and he's been right, I couldn't count him on 2 hands. But to me, on the surface of it, he just got 59 in a team that got beaten by 40 points. They play the Dolphins next week. We saw the Dolphins' defence today not being good. It wasn't good last year either. So to me, it's a little bit premature. This is a guy who averaged 70 plus in his last full season in the NRL, and that was not in PVL ball. That was in normal NRL football. If this is really going to be PVL ball and a faster play, I think the Titans are still going to have points in them, and I think it would be a crazy trade. But happy to be proven
when's Jaden Campbell back? He's out 2 to 4.
6. I think it was 2 to 4, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that'll make a big impact. I mean, we don't need all the hypotheticals, but if you came out and got 70 again next week and we saw similar results from the other fullbacks, it might be a bit of a discussion on the snap next week.
All right. Fayamani, Cialatelli Fayamani, who I've got to put my hand up here, Tubes. After the first trial, I kind of questioned whether or not he was an NRL player. Suggested on the Sunday Snap from the trials that I was not confident he was going to hold his spot. I thought his second trial, I softened on that stance a little bit. After watching him on the weekend in a well-beaten team, I thought he had a good game. He finished a really nice, strong try with a great put down. He had some strong carries. It's funny, though, still only 31 in base plus power. I would have thought watching him and watching his hit-ups, that would have been better. He just didn't have that many runs, but the ones he had were good. I don't know. I guess I was wrong. Well done, Fayamani. Good story.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to see a few more runs. He looks a bit like, people were comparing him to Toto. He looks a bit like Greg Marju, the way that he runs the ball.
The way he really gets down at the line is Greg-esque. I agree. Yeah, and he kind of gets the big bumper bars up.
Very happy to have him. Very happy to have him as a cheapie. I'd say I'd still rank him as if I was putting Moses Leo versus him as that playable option, I'd still have a Moses Leo over the top of him if you're doing a sit v start this week.
Agreed, and part of that's just because one of them plays for the Storm, one of them plays for the Titans. So I think I'd rather back in the pedigree team in that regard. Tubes, a couple of cheapy second-row forwards for the Titans. Start off with a Rama, Howe or Ho. Apologise, I'll watch his game and not on mute next week and get that correct pronunciation. He played 80 minutes for a score of 57. I thought he was one of the Titans' more threatening players in attack. He had a couple of very near misses for tries. A line break assist was his only attacking stat right at the end of the game. but very importantly, 80 minutes, Tubes, with that 4-forward bench. Fantastic. Good start for the Arama Howe owners.
Think so. Look good on the edge. Good that Hannay clearly wants an 80-minute edge back rower. It looks like in that rotation. As I said earlier, a few mistakes in defence.
Yeah.
So I hope he's given the chance to rectify that and to continue to work on that, because he does look like he's got a bit about him in attack. And if he can hold on to that spot, he's a super coach. It could be a super coach gun, or certainly at the price he'll rise fairly quickly.
Cooper Bye, who's one of the highest owned second row forwards, bit of a disappointing one. He played 28 minutes. He was the fourth forward off the bench for the Titans in a 4-forward rotation for his 25 points. Tubes, I'm just wondering, if you own Cooper Bye, would you be able to stay patient with all these other cheapies around at a similar price, doing much bigger and better things?
No, I wouldn't. I don't think.
As soon as this week?
It depends. It really depends on who we're talking about. If it was for Noah Martin, which we haven't got to yet, I would be going to Noah Martin. If it was for someone like a Ryan Couchman, I wouldn't. I still want to see what their role looks like. And if it was for Lasardi or Chan, like we talked about, I'd give that another week. But so for Noah Martin, I would be trading him straight away if you can get the 15K upgrade or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's hard because it just doesn't create cash. And whenever you want to be making trades this time, you want to be generating, actually getting cash in the bank. But there is a case that it's still generating cash because you're probably going to make a lot more of it with that trade. Tubes, the Seagulls versus the Raiders, easily the match of the round. Great game of footy to watch. Far out. And thanks, shout out KO for crashing during the second half and causing a lot of people to miss chunks. But it took me about 20 minutes of the second half to realise that it was the app's problem, not my phone. And that I then got onto the KO website instead of the app. But geez, it was frustrating.
Jono.
Yes.
Mate, can we not stuff up my my sponsorship I've been working on for the last few years? I was a bit frustrated with the app. I was happy that I could get onto the browser and continue watching the game. And geez, I love that KO mini rewatching this game this morning for 20 minutes.
Keep sending through those Tubes checks, KO. Well done. Tubes, starting off these Raiders back rows, Noah Martin and Hudson Young. What a dynamic back row this was. And Noah Martin, he played NRL before, mainly off the bench as a middle forward, coming through, getting small amounts of minutes here, priced at 250K. He had 2 tries, 66 points in base plus power at his price. So we're looking at a guy who, if he keeps getting 80 minutes, is imminently playable. In fact, you want to play him in your team each week. And shout out Matt, the head honcho of Ballr Podcasting, who did play him this week. And Chiefs, just to top that off, Matty Nicholson, who was the guy we were worried about as a potential, could he come back in, even though he'd had some mail to say otherwise. Still a threat. Matty Nicholson's a really good NRL player. He's re-injured his shoulder in New South Wales Cup, which I believe Brian, the NRL physio, just described as the ticking time bomb he was waiting to happen after the original injury, and it has happened. Wax lyrical, Cheers, about Noah Martin. If you want to talk about Hudson Young at the same time, feel free.
Look, I think the only snippet you left out was then the Ricky press conference where he confirmed what the barber had already confirmed for us, was that he was Ricky's boy, and he had the better preseason,
superior,
him and Nick, superior preseason, and geez, it translated into the performance. It's for long-time listeners, you'll know we're a fan of young supplements around here, and it looks like Noah Martin has been on the young supplements because he just looked like Hudson Young 2.0 on that right-hand edge, maybe without the ball kicking ability, but he looked unbelievable on the right. I thought Young looked very good on the left, and it just made me I left that game going, what a great game, and Turbo nearly got them back in with Cooler, but the Raiders are just going to be very good and very formidable again this year for sure.
Yeah, Hudson Young, I mean, Noah Martin, enough said. I think, Tubes, I saw a few people in the Ballers Only Discord saying, let's wait another week and just make sure he's definitely got the role. I think I saw someone mention that Papali'i and Zach Hosking both came off the HIAs, although Hosking did come back on the field. Some people suggesting maybe that affected rotations. Maybe he won't get 80 minutes every week.
Middle, though.
No, I'm just saying, I agree, but is there a chance that Hosking was going to play on an edge, and then because Papali'i came off, had to play through the middle. I'm just putting out there what other people were saying. What I was going to finish with is I don't think it matters. I think he's an 80-minute man. He didn't look gassed even going into extra time. Super impressive, and I'll be playing in my squad next week. Speaking
he could be a 50-minute man. Sorry, like as in even if he's not an 80-minute man, he is so good.
Yeah,
like at 250k, you must get him in.
Yeah. All right. Ethan Sanders Tubes was also highly impressive. He's busted out of 94. He had a try, a great little dummy show and go, Nico-esque, a try assist, plus the most casual winning field goal you'll ever see with absolutely no pressure from the Manly Sea Eagles. I almost choose watching that field goal was like, I saw no Manly rushing. I was like, oh, he just mustn't be going for a field goal. He's going to put up a bomb. But no, he just got to take his time because no one charged him and slotted the easiest one of all time. Tubes, the other thing that a Ballr contributor Cracker put me onto, and I looked it up, was there was a lot of chat in the preseason, and it included from us about is Strange going to take up a bigger role and do more organising. Sanders was by far the dominant man in terms of the amount of touches in attack. I thought it was a great, not debut performance because he's played before, but a great debut in terms of him as a starting halfback in the NRL.
Yeah, he looked unbelievable. He was... I don't watch a lot of New South Wales Cup and he didn't play in the trials, but he was a much bigger body than I was expecting, I think, as well. Still quite young, so it's still time to grow into the frame, but really liked, obviously he scored the try, but I really liked the way he was taking on the line. He took a few shots too, and I think that he looked as though he is already durable for the NRL. So it wasn't just about how good he played and what a great game, but there was a few things there that I really liked. Thought he had a great kicking game, obviously kicked goals. You own him, don't you, as a Canberra boy? Like, you must have jumped on him to start the year.
I went with Atkinson, Tubes, and I wish I didn't. I can't quite justify the trade this week because there's every chance that Atkinson comes out and gets an 80-plus next week, and then as a guy at that price, he's off to the races, doesn't justify the trade. But if Sanders comes out and goes well again and Atkinson goes poorly, I will definitely be looking to make that trade in round 3. I thought it was really impressive.
Are they the same price?
No, Sanders is about 15k cheaper. Sorry, Sanders,
okay.
No, wrong. Other way around. Atkinson's 15k cheaper.
Okay, yeah, okay. I, just to put it out there, I would 100% make that trade this week. I thought he's another man that I think you need to have in your team by round 3. And so you need to figure out a way to do it.
I think, Shoots, if I had 15k lying around, we're hard capped, hungry for more. We got about $1,000 in the bank. I think if I had the 15k, I'd be putting a lot more thought into it. I just don't
to the second, yeah.
I just don't think it's worth. There's no second trade I want to make to justify it. So by round 3, I'm sure there will be other trades I want to make. Anyway, let's get on to the Sea Eagles, Tubes. I thought. By the way, Simi Sasangi, shout out again to the Podfather. Well done on bringing in Simi as a massive pod. The Sea Eagles, big Tolotau caller. How good did he look? 108 points. It got to the end of the game where they kind of realised, oh, wait, the Raiders can't handle this guy, and just started giving him early ball on both sides of the field to fantastic results. He had 108 points, 61 in base plus power. What a game.
Yeah, I think look, Jono, you need to. He was not the headline act. He
not for you.
Good. There was one man that was 6.5% owned, and that was young Tommy Trbojevic, who kicked off his season with a nice try in the pouring rain. And when the Manly Sea Eagles needed him to get them back into the game, he delivered. He delivered a great ball to Cooler to set him up for a try, and then delivered a great ball to Fogarty off the back of Cooler's break. And it was great to see Tommy Trbojevic back in full flight.
Without worry. How nice was it?
Without worry. What about they were giving him a nice hammy spray on the sideline as well? Just a nice, they figured it out, precautionary heat rub.
Yeah, keep him warm.
That's what keeps him going. He was flying though, honestly, because I do own him and I was watching him very closely. I was just watching the way he was chasing bombs, the way he was sort of backing up and sort of supporting people. And, you know, you're always going to be on a bit of a knife's edge with him, but it felt like he was moving freely and very fully fit.
Yeah, I choose. We saw even at the back end of last year, once he got back into that fullback role after a little flirtation in the centres, he was scoring really well. and he looked at like 70%. He didn't look like he was ever stretching out fully, and he was still killing it from Supercoach. So if he can be back to just playing free without worry, he's going to have some huge scores. I'm a little bit envious of the Tom Trbojevic own. Again, my fullbacks went well. Like I had Kinney, Ponga and Fa'alongo, but still watching Tommy, I was like, man, he's going to have some 200-plus scores this year. It feels like it. If not 200-plus, big 150-plus, and I want a piece. Taniela Paseka Tubes, how good did he play? Like he's had 56 minutes. He's pumped out 63 points in base plus power. Put that aside, rugby league eye test, big, strong, willing to get in there and do some work. Coming back off a serious injury, I thought he was really impressive.
Yeah, and I only didn't start with him just because of that ruptured Achilles. I just couldn't bring myself to think that he could look that good. And he did. He was unbelievable. I thought that without him, they don't get any go forward, basically, that Sea Eagles pack. So they looked much better when he was on the field, and I can't see how they're dropping his minutes. So very good from a Supercoach perspective.
Yeah, I think just to give Brian, the NRL physio, and his podcast, The Magic Sponge, a shout out, because I do listen to it for my Monday morning commute every week just to catch up on all those injuries. He did mention in their first episode of the year about Paseka and how he was actually good to come back at the end of last year, a little bit similar to Cam Murray, who we'll get to in the next game, but they decided to hold him off because the season was over. So he was not worried about his fitness just because he'd had a real proper off-season. Like he's a long way into his recovery, and geez, it showed. Tubes, Jakey Simpkin, you spoke a lot about him as being a good option in the preseason. You were pretty bullish on him getting 80 minutes and thinking it was a stronger chance maybe than others did. He did get that 80 minutes this week. Will it be long-term? We'll find out, because they did have Siasua Takiaho had a calf injury, which then brought Corey Waddell into their middle rotation, and Joey Walsh didn't get any minutes. So maybe that was the plan anyway, or maybe the rotations were impacted. I certainly wouldn't be jumping on Jakey Simpkin, even though he had a 59 and 80 minutes. I think we need another week.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm not looking to pick up any mid-range hooker at this stage. So yeah, I think definitely a wait and see.
All right, last game of the round, the Dolphins versus the Bunnies, a very big high-scoring affair, 70 points scored. Tubes, this was the one that really kind of pushed you into that PVL 2.0 territory watching this one this afternoon. And Latrell Mitchell, have I ever seen a more unimpressive 104 points? Maybe not. 2 tries, 18 points in goals, 35 in base plus power, which when you add to his goal kicking is almost base for Trell. That's not too bad, even at the price. I just didn't really feel like it was a big Trell game. It felt like he only had a couple of chances, iced every one of them.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. He also had that one where he knocked on, chasing through the kick, and it sort of hit his shoulder, went up a try. He just does what he does. Like, he just picks his moments and came in and scored. He was going up against Avarillo, and like anything in hindsight, that was always a very nice matchup for him this week. So yeah, see if he can back it up against the Roosters next week, and that will be a big match, and he'll be certainly up for it as well. So scary proposition as a non-owner.
Are you a non-owner? I did not know that. I just assumed you'd had Trell in like all your preseason builds. It was just what changed?
I switched him to Greg Marju, which I'm not. Greg went fine. I was flying last week thinking 70, how good? 600K for 70. I wasn't expecting every gun centre wing to be getting nearly 100 this week. But
makes Greg's 70 look a little bit less impressive in hindsight. Makes everything last weekend feel different in hindsight. Like we were talking up Tubes, Heel and Lukey is a must-have last week. He's still obviously a great option. I'd love to own him. But watching all these cheaper options go so well, I don't know if I feel as strong on things like that anymore. But anyway,
yeah, everything about it. Ponga going amazing. There's a lot that's sort of changed with a much higher scoring round than I think anyone anticipated.
We love to say it, Tubes. A week's a long time in Supercoach, and that's how Vegas feels like forever ago. Tubes, the other one from the Rabbitohs on that left edge. We obviously spoke about Cody in the Ready to Explode segment, but David Fafita, who his first 30 minutes, he was so slow, looked unmotivated. His hit-ups were coming in at like half pace. And I was thinking, what's going on? I thought he was out here to prove a point. It's almost like he got his little kind of, got his feathers ruffled a little bit. And he fired up. He had a try assist off a nice little hit and spin tackle bust. 54 points in base plus power. He was going to play 80 minutes. He was set for that 80-minute role, which people weren't sure about as well. He had a sin bin with 8 to go, which is one of those, we sin bin one from one team, let's get a guy from the other team as well. I liked what I saw for the second 50 minutes of that game.
Yeah, I mean, I think he takes a bit of time for whatever reason to wake up. And as you say, the big thing was the 80 minutes. And I think for me, it was interesting to look at that whole South's rotation in general. So Ewan Aiken was started on the right edge, and we had your boy on the bench. I'm not
Tallis Duncan.
Tallis Duncan, and Tallis Duncan came on and moved to the right edge, and Aiken moved to the middle to play that rotation. So I think that's only good for Fafita in the way that shakes out. I think it's good for lots of people. But I think that was a big watch for me, that South's rotation, and I think David Fafita was one of a few big winners.
Yeah, I did like it. And I think one thing to watch there with this combination, this kind of new combination of Cody and Fafita, they're working on a big wraparound play, Tubes. There was like 3 times early game they did this where Cody popped a short ball, Fafita backed into the line and tried to pop it back out, but the Finn just did a really good job of wrapping him up. But just watch for that play. It's gonna get some points coming up very soon, maybe as soon as the Roosters next week.
Just to add one more is they'll also work out at some point that Fafita can throw a great cutout ball. And there's probably not a better man than Trell to be a decoy player. So I'm expecting a lot of Fafita to Alex Johnson tries throughout the year for sure.
Tubes, I was highly impressed by 2 Rabbitohs middles, Keon Kalamatangi and Cam Murray. Another player comparison. Look, Keon Kalamatangi had 77 points. He had 69 minutes. We did say the bench looked good for him on the Tuesday show, but 69 minutes, that's a very nice role. Tubes, 46 points from runs. Like not tackles, not power stats, just from runs. I don't think I've ever seen a guy get that many points just from runs alone. Absolutely incredible performance from him. And then Cam Murray just reminded me, and Dan was talking about this as well, just how important he is to the South's attack. He's link man. He's so much better at it than the great Lockie Hupner was last year. A lot faster hands. And just the way he gets to his stomach for those quick play the balls gets a lot of these South backline plays going. And yeah, 71 minutes, 67 in base plus power for his 71 points. I think both of those guys would be great to own.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, as I said, with the watch, I think you can take a lot out of the fact that Keon played big minutes. He played the whole first half straight, and that was even before Ash Ward went off. I think that you say you haven't seen someone do that many runs before. I think I've seen someone, and it was Keon Kalamatangi when he was playing prop last year, as he went on that run and the origin calls were coming out for him as a prop forward. He didn't even look gassed when he was at all. Like, I think that he's the one, 600K prop forward that I'm a bit upset that I didn't start with, because that's all you wanted to see as an owner was that role. And you know that he can do it. When you compare it with Murray did get taken off, I think, earlier. Hubner only played 19 minutes, and I agree with what you said that he's so important to their attack. But I do think they will want to rest him where possible, especially where games are iced and different things are happening. So I'm a little bit more skeptical about was Murray's minutes inflated today because Ward went off and they used Bud Sullivan off the bench as one of the 17 players as well.
Look, you might well be right. I'd still be confident it's going to be around 65 minutes though, based off what we saw today, because when he came off, shocked me. That's when the Finns went on their big run. And it's almost like they're like, oh, let's get Cam back out there. Because Hubner, unfortunately, I'm the president of the Hub Club. Lockie Hubner had a poor NRL game. Hopefully he can bounce back. Last one from the Rabbitohs Tubes is Campbell Graham. I know you loved him all pre-season, couldn't quite make it work at that 430K price. You either wanted to go bigger or cheaper. He had 2 tries. South's clearly willing to use both sides. And like we mentioned with Tommy Turbo, obviously Campbell Graham's no Tommy Turbo, but it was nice to see him play a football game where he looked unhampered. Last year, whenever he did play, never looked like he was playing at 100% and hitting the line like we know he can. I loved when he got that first little bit of space today. There were 5 Dolphins coming across, and he just put the head down, took off, and got into that corner. I thought it was great. So loved it from Campbell Graham, and well done to the 9% who owned him. Tubes, on to the Dolphins players. Tommy Flegler, another really well-discussed guy. We mentioned Jesse Colquhoun, Taniela Paseka. Flegler more in Colquhoun territories than Taniela Paseka ones. He had 48 points, 46 minutes. I did think that with a faster-paced proper NRL game, and we shouldn't be surprised, he's had so long off football, I thought he did look a touch off the pace compared to the trials, a little bit slower than what he did in the trials, but I think that's normal and that wouldn't concern me. If I owned him, I wouldn't be making a trade this week.
Yeah, wow. I didn't realise he got to 48. Did he get some big upgrades afterwards, like in his tackles and stuff? I was watching during the game and I thought he was on 20. They had him on 24 after 40 minutes. So I thought he was in for no good. But
he just kind of got another stint. He got another stint the same length and doubled it basically.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, look, similar to Colquhoun, as in, I don't think you're rushing out to trade him, as you said, and you're probably just going to, sit with him and have a slow burn, unless you don't have huge fires or huge things to do next week. You might have a luxury trade, and him do a Paseka or something like that might make sense.
Chiefs, last two for the show. Herbie Farmworth and Selwyn Cobbo, or as you coined him in the preseason, Cobworth, the big Dolphins left edge stack. What'd you make of the first kind of go around for Cobworth?
I don't know what to make of it. I was shocked that Herbie was on 35 at halftime without doing anything. I wasn't shocked. So
it's Herbie.
I was disappointed as a non-owner. I was hoping to see that he was on lower, but yeah, he's obviously got that try in the second half, which was no way in any way a try. He's basically pushed Hubner
full away, into the chest push,
and then the bunker goes, "Oh, it's just
shoulder to shoulder,
just shoulder to shoulder, Jocelyn." As we're watching him push him away, but anyway, so he gets that try and only ends up with 75, which I think you'd be disappointed with. Not that you're disappointed for him to get 75, but I think you would have expect 90 plus with a try for Herbie. So I feel like I've gotten away with one. They're playing the Titans next week, I believe. So I don't know. I'm sure owners will be licking their lips for that one.
Yeah, Tubes, just first of all, one of the reasons I love SuperCoach is that exact play, that the try that Herbie was given. For me as a Rabbitohs fan, my initial instinct was, are you kidding me? He's pushed him off. They went, hold on, Herbie's in my SuperCoach team. Good decision, video referee. Fantastic.
Yeah, now just Souths don't lose this game, but...
Yes, but they made the right call in the moment. Now, look, 55 in base plus power, I don't walk away concerned from Herbie. The big thing, Choose, for me is that the set attack just never really went out to that left edge. Well, it did, sorry. It just usually stopped in short with a short ball to kind of lead Lemuelu, as opposed to going out the back to Herbie and Cobbo, and there's no way it's going to be that way all the time. It wouldn't surprise me if that was a bit of a game plan because Ashton Ward was on that edge and let's target the little guy. And he's a little guy, Ashton Ward. So it makes sense. And obviously Jaden Sullivan came on and you can do the same thing to Bud Sullivan as well. So I'm not concerned. And I like that he still scored 75 with a try that wasn't off a line break and had 55 in base plus power. And look, Selwyn Cobbo, same thing. I'd give him a pass mark this week. He got 54 points without doing too much. And let's see how it looks in a more fluid attacking game.
Yeah.
All right, Tubes, that pretty much rounds out our bumper show. You got one more thing to add?
One more thing, just
Please.
it's a call out to the old segment, The Little Black Book, and that was just Trey Fuller came on with 7 minutes to go. Avarillo went off, and I don't know, did they move Hammer to centre, and did Fuller play fullback? Either way, he came on for the last 8 minutes. His price is likely going to drop over the coming weeks. And if there's an injury, he will be basically a must-have. But it also means for those in draft, like myself, that have him sitting on the bench for when he is ready to explode, it's a disaster. He's an AE nightmare. So yeah, just a small,
just to watch.
Anyone that might have missed the Trey Fuller part of the show, it actually dropped. In my draft team, for those that are real interested in this, I had Kalen Ponga as my auto emergency at 116, and Trey Fuller coming off the bench there dropped it a nice 109 points in my draft side, and I got beat by just under that. So good.
Bad luck, Tubes. Bad luck. All right, Tubes, that brings us out to a close. Bumper show. Always heaps to discuss from round one because it's our first proper look of the year at how these guys are lining up in real NRL matches. And
oh, Jesus, we've gone a long time.
I think we're always going to. Never in doubt for the first proper round of the year. Lots to talk about. But look, we'll be back again on the Tuesday show. It is a very important trade week, very important team list Tuesday week. We're going to be back with Danny Boy and a guest TBA, a special guest that we're bringing in, one of the great tactical minds and SuperCoach bringing in to discuss for that show. Tubes, I guess the listeners now know to rule you out as a guest on the Tuesday show based off that description.
We'll see. I reckon I'm still a chance of getting a late call up. The only thing...
So I was going to say, Tubes is on Tuesday. You know that special guest didn't pan out.
The only thing I'm going to say is I think the main issue why we're going so much longer is Ballr just keeps releasing ridiculous amount of features, and there's too many features to talk about at the beginning of the episode. So we need to sort of splutter it in as we're going along, because like I'm not even going to list them off now. I'll be here for another hour. So, but just everything at Ballr.live and sign up at Ballr.live because just doing some unbelievable things.
Yeah, and come in and join us, please, on the Discord. We love having chats to people on Discord. Shoes and myself are in there, Matt's in there, Dan's in there, even C-Mac making a couple of big cameos today, which I loved for a Sunday Arvo.
He was up and about with his 1,500. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Long may it rain. I hope he keeps killing it. We see more of him in there. But we also did a Q&A, live Q&A on Thursday before the first game, which will be a feature we sprinkling in for our ballers in that Discord as well. And as always, please jump into the socials, give us a follow. We really appreciate it. Tubes, take us home.
You beauty.